All right, for more on this, we're now being joined by Adrian Calamel from New York. He's a fellow at the Arabian Peninsula Institute, a terrorism and Middle Eastern scholar and author of the forthcoming book on Hezbollah. Adrian Calamel, thanks very much indeed for talking to WION this evening. Now, the hostage deal has been in suspended animation for months. Many in Israel itself believe that if Netanyahu wanted, he could have got the release of the hostages and ended this war already. Has he failed his own people, even as he has brought wide-scale destruction to Gaza?
Thank you for having me. And I don't think he can put the blame on Netanyahu. You have to look at Hamas's repeatedly rejected deal after deal after deal, 8, 9, 10 different deals. What they want to do is they want to remain in power. I see so much pressure being put on Israel. But the pressure is not being put on Hamas. Hamas knows that the hostages equal leverage, and what they want, Hamas, is an immediate ceasefire and really a permanent ceasefire where they're allowed to maintain their presence in Gaza. Israel has always wanted the hostages back from the very beginning. You had the early hostage exchanges, but since then, there's been absolutely no traction except for a couple hostage rescue missions by the Israelis. So we have to look who we're negotiating with. If we're negotiating from the Israeli side, and we're negotiating with Hamas. And when you negotiate with Hamas, they keep on moving the goalposts.
Yeah, but how do you come to the negotiating table when you have been bombarding the Gaza Strip for over several months and over 40,000 people are dead? So the negotiations are going to be tough on both sides. But having said that, now Hamas has said in this case that 3 of those 6 hostages who have died were on a release list. As the streets are filling up with protesters in Israel, Netanyahu and far-right leaders like the finance minister are warning of a massacre like October 7th, more strikes. So where does it go from here?
So when we look at what just happened with the recovery of 6 bodies in Rafah, in the areas where they've been told not to go into because they're holding all the hostages in that area, this is a cynical, evil ploy by Hamas to, one, apply pressure, internal pressure on the Netanyahu government, which has been successful, to also say that 3 have been on a list for release. Do we know that any of that's true? And then let me add, they included one American, an American, Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, whose parents spoke at the DNC, who has a very high public profile in the United States. So that is for the United States to apply more pressure on Israel. That's how Hamas is calculating this. It's very cynical. I hate to think in these terms. I expect that we may see more of this. Hamas is clinging on for survival, and these are last-ditch attempts for them to stay intact.
Where's the pressure from the U.S. on Netanyahu? They're giving them billions of dollars in aid. There's weapons that are coming in. They're striking and bombarding the Gaza Strip every day. But yet they haven't got the hostages. Now, internally, there's a lot of turmoil and demands that there should be a hostage deal, there should be a ceasefire deal. You can see those protests, visuals on our screens. Netanyahu is being asked to deliver. What do you think about that?
Well, if you look at, when I talk about U.S. pressure, there's been leaks signaling that we're withholding 500-pound munitions. So you can look at that. You can look at the pressure that they've put on the Netanyahu government with putting a 3-phase plan in front of them that really doesn't have any tangible benchmarks. It's just kind of very nebulous as far as the language goes, and it doesn't address the very heart of the matter, is release of the hostages. I would like to know what Joe Biden's plan is for release of the hostages. His idea, or this administration, has been just hope Hamas deals in good faith, call a ceasefire, have Israel withdraw all the troops for at least 6 weeks, start negotiations, and then maybe we'll get some hostages back.
There isn't any good faith in a war, Adrian Calamel, but
Yeah.
I do want to point out that, going back to Netanyahu, as you can see, there are protests from people, from families, but there are also protests within the cabinet and from members of the Israeli government and the opposition. Benny Gantz has been opposing, Netanyahu, and with the Philadelphia corridor, he says that Israel should have ownership of that. A lot of people in Israel don't agree with that. That's been a sticking point for the ceasefire deal, the 3-point ceasefire deal that the U.S. has come up with. How do you negotiate with so many different caveats?
Well, here we have to look at the grand scheme of things. This is a war that the Islamic Republic of Iran has initiated. They have multiple fronts open. This is one of the fronts that's in Gaza. Right now, this has been a protracted 11-month struggle now. Israel likes lightning-fast operations. This has not been that. So it is nearing its conclusion. Everybody wants a diplomatic solution, but sometimes there's only military solutions. I understand that there's been tremendous bloodshed. But there's just a complete unwillingness for Hamas to negotiate. And we have to remember who started this, who invaded and then took back hundreds of hostages. 101 still remain in captivity. So I don't know where the lines of negotiation are. Ultimately, the problem rests with the Islamic Republic, and the report right before we came on were the Houthis, trying to link their activities to this conflict. So it's failed foreign policy all around. It could have been prevented, but here we are.
Well, absolutely failed foreign policy. Adrian Calamel, thanks very much indeed for talking to WION this evening and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you for having me.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.